The voice note came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Not a text, not a call. A voice note, 73 seconds long, sent while I was already in bed with the lamp off and the particular tiredness of someone who had worked 11 hours and was not done thinking about the 12th. I pressed play in the dark. My brother's voice filled the room. "Hey, so listen. We're doing Connor's graduation party at the lakeside venue. You know, the one on Route 9 with the terrace. It's going to be big. We want to do it right for him. The deposit is due Friday and we're short. I need you to wire $8,500 by Thursday morning. I know it's fast, but that's just how it worked out. You know how these things go. Let me know." 73 seconds. No hello, no how are you. No question mark anywhere in the delivery, because it was not a request. It was a notification of a payment schedule. I set the phone face down on the nightstand. I lay in the dark for a while. Then I picked the phone back up and I played it again. Because sometimes you need to hear something twice to be sure you heard it correctly the first time. The second time, I counted the things that were not in the message. No, please. No, I know this is a lot. No, I'll pay you back by. No, what do you think? No, is this a good time? No acknowledgement that $8,500 was a number that required a conversation rather than a voice note sent at 11:47. On a Tuesday when the person receiving it was presumably asleep. I put the phone down. I did not respond that night. My name is Nathan Cole, 39 years old. I run a small logistics consulting practice that I built over 12 years, from a spare room in an apartment. I was renting with 2 roommates into something that pays its own bills and employs 4 people I actually like. It was not fast. It was not funded by anyone. There were years where the margin was thin, enough that I tracked groceries by unit price and knew exactly what I could afford to buy and what I was pretending I could afford to buy, which is a different thing. I know the difference between $8,500 as a number and $8,500 as a reality. My brother does not. My brother's name is Derek. He is 3 years older than me. He married his wife Linda 11 years ago. They have 1 son, Connor, who turned 22 in the spring and had just finished a marketing degree at a mid-tier university that I had helped pay for. Though that is getting ahead of the story. Derek has spent most of his adult life operating on the assumption that the gap between what he wanted and what he had was something other. People were responsible for closing. He is not a bad man. I want to say that clearly because bad man is a category that lets you stop thinking, and the truth is more complicated than that. He is a man who was told he was exceptional from a very young age and who structured his entire life around that belief, without ever stress testing it against evidence. He expected good things because he had always been told he deserved good things. And when the good things required funding, he looked for the nearest person who had developed the unfortunate habit of saying yes. That person, for the past decade, had been me. Let me tell you how I became that person. When our father died 11 years ago, suddenly, a cardiac event on a Tuesday morning in March, the kind that gives you no warning and no time. Derek was 41 days from closing on a house. The house fell through because the death triggered a financial review that revealed Derek's debt-to-income ratio was higher than the bank had known. He lost the deposit. He and Linda and Connor, who was 10 at the time, were in a rental that was already too small. I had just closed a decent year. I was not flush, but I was stable. I lent him $12,000 to cover the deposit on a different property. He paid back $4,000 over the following year. The remaining $8,000 I stopped asking about after 18 months because the asking cost more than the amount. I had absorbed the lesson. I should have drawn from that and instead drawn the wrong one. The wrong lesson was, you can afford to be generous, so be generous. The right lesson was, Derek does not pay back what he cannot see as a debt. Over the following decade, the loans accumulated like sediment. Not large amounts usually. A few hundred here, a few thousand there. The time he needed a bridge for a car repair. The time Connor's school trip required a deposit they didn't have. The time Linda's dental work turned out to be more extensive than the insurance covered. Each one was its own emergency. Each one was presented as temporary. Each one had a vague repayment plan attached to it in The way that agreements have plans attached to them when the person making the agreement knows they will not be held to it. I kept a spreadsheet, not because I planned to use it, but because I am a logistics person and I track things. It is how I am built. The spreadsheet, over 11 years, read $43,200. I had never shown it to anyone. The Tuesday night voice note would have added $8,500 to that total. I did not respond until the following morning. I texted one sentence, "Call me when you can talk." He called at 9:15 while I was on my second coffee, and the spreadsheet was open on my second monitor. Stay with me, because what happened on that call and what I did 4 days later is something I need to tell from the beginning. Derek answered like a man who expected a confirmation. "Hey, you get my message?" "I did," I said. "Good. Thursday morning works for you?" "I haven't said I was sending anything, Derek." A pause, the specific pause of someone who has received a response from a category they did not expect. "What?" I said I haven't agreed to send anything. "I wanted to talk first." Another pause. Longer. "It's for Connor's party, Nathan. The lakeside venue. You know how important this is. I know you want to do something nice for Connor. I also know that $8,500 is a significant amount of money to request in a voice note at midnight. I sent it before midnight, 11:47, which is not the point." I heard him recalibrate. Derek is good at recalibrating. He can shift from expectation to appeal in a single breath when he needs to. "Look, I know it's a lot, but you've always come through for us. You know that. And this is a big milestone for Connor. He worked hard." "He did," I said, "and I'm glad he finished. But $8,500 for a graduation party is not something I can do right now." "You can't or you won't." I had been waiting for that question. It is the question people ask when they want to reclassify a choice as a limitation, when they want you to feel that your no is a failing rather than a decision. "Both," I said. "And I'd like to talk about something else while we're on the phone." "Like what?" "Like the $43,200 I have in a spreadsheet." The line went very quiet. Derek has a tell when he is managing something, when he is deciding how to respond to something he did not expect. He breathes audibly through his nose. You can hear the air moving. I heard it now. "What spreadsheet?" "The one I've been keeping since Dad died. Every amount I've sent you, every date, every what it was for. Those were loans, Nathan. We've talked about repayment. We've talked about it twice. You made 2 partial payments. That was 8 years ago. Things have been tight." "Things have been tight for me too," I said. "The difference is that when things were tight for me, I didn't send my brother a voice note at midnight asking for $8,000. He was quiet. I let the quiet stay. Derek does not do well with silence that he didn't create. He fills it. "I don't know what you want from me," he said. The appeal had shifted now. Not to gratitude, but to victimhood. "I'm trying to do something good for my son and you're pulling out a spreadsheet." "I'm not pulling it out to be cruel," I said. "I'm pulling it out because I think you genuinely don't know what the number is. And I think if you knew the number, this conversation would be different." Another long breath through the nose. "Fine. What's the number?" $43,200. Over 11 years. Silence. "That's not right," he said. "I can send you the spreadsheet," I said. "Dates, amounts, purposes. You can check it against your own records." He did not say he had records. I did not press that point. "Nathan, I'm not angry, Derek. I want to be clear about that. I'm not calling to fight. I'm calling because you asked for $8,500 and I needed you to understand the context before I could give you an honest answer. And the honest answer is no. The honest answer is that I'm not wiring anything else until we've had a real conversation about what we've already done. That's not punishment. That's just where I am." He said he needed to think. I said that was fine. He said Linda was going to be upset. I said I understood. He ended the call. I sat at my desk and looked at the spreadsheet. $43,200. 12 years of being the person in the family who had developed the unfortunate habit of saying yes. I did not feel righteous. That surprised me. I had expected some version of relief or vindication, and what I felt instead was something heavier and quieter, with a specific sadness of someone who has just said something true that has cost something real. My brother and I had not had an honest conversation about money in 11 years. We had had a long series of transactions dressed up as conversations, and I had participated in every one of them. I was not only the victim of the structure, I was one of its architects. That is the part people leave out when they tell these stories. The part where the person who finally says no has to look at their own role in the years of not saying it. I sat with that for a while. Then I opened a different document. Not the spreadsheet. Something I had started once and set aside. A letter I had been writing to Derek in pieces for almost 2 years. Not to send, just to think clearly. I opened it and I read what I'd written. Then I added to it, slowly, for the better part of an hour. When I was done, I read it through once. Then I made the decision I had been building toward for 11 years. I was going to send it, not as an attack, not as a manifesto, as a reckoning. The kind you offer someone because you still think the relationship is worth trying to save, but only if it is built on something real. I printed 2 copies. Then I drove to see my mother. My mother's name is Ruth. She is 68 years old. She lives in the house Derek and I grew up in, 30 minutes from where I live, in a neighborhood where the same families have had the same lawns for 30 years. My mother is the person who taught Derek and me most of what we know about money, which is to say she taught us not to talk about it, because not talking about it was the way our family managed the discomfort of having less than they wanted. She also taught Derek, accidentally, that he was exceptional. My mother loves her sons equally, and specifically differently. She loves me as the capable one, the one who figures things out, who keeps things running. She loves Derek as the one who needs care, the one who has always needed a little more runway, a little more patience, a little more grace. She has never examined whether that framing serves either of us. I sat at her kitchen table on a Wednesday morning and I told her what was happening. I told her about the voice note, about the call, about the spreadsheet. She listened with the careful expression of a woman who knows she is being asked to do something she has been avoiding for a long time. When I finished, she said, "I didn't know it was that much." "I know," I said. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" "I did, twice, and both times the conversation ended before it landed." She looked at the table. "He's struggling, Nathan." "I know he's struggling," I said. "But struggling doesn't mean I owe him $8,000 for a graduation party, and it doesn't erase $43,000 of prior debts." She looked up. "What are you going to do?" I told her I was going to send Derek a letter. She asked what kind of letter. I told her it was honest, that it laid out the history and my feelings about it and what I was willing to do going forward, and what I was not. She was quiet for a moment. "He's going to be upset." "Yes," I said. "Linda is going to call me." "Probably. And Connor's party is not my responsibility," I said. "I love Connor. I will always be his uncle. But I am not his parents' emergency fund." She reached across the table and put her hand on mine. "I know," she said. And the way she said it, 2 words that carried 20 years of things she had also not said, told me she had known for longer than she had let herself acknowledge. "I'm sorry I made it easier not to say something," she said. That surprised me. Not because she was wrong, because she was right. I squeezed her hand. Then I drove home and I mailed the letter. I sent it the old-fashioned way, paper and ink in an envelope, not because I was trying to be dramatic, because a letter that arrives in the mail requires a different kind of attention than a text you can dismiss or a voice. No, you can replay and reframe. I wanted Derek to hold it. The letter was 4 pages. I do not need to reproduce it here. What was in it was personal and specific. The kind of accounting that belongs between 2 brothers and not in a public telling. But I will tell you its shape. The first page was history. The real history. What I had given and when and why, without blame, just as a record. The second page was pattern. what I had noticed about the way the requests came in, and what I had noticed about myself for continuing to respond to them. The third page was what I wanted. Not money back, not as the primary thing. What I wanted was a real conversation, a relationship between two adults who talked honestly about money and need and obligation, instead of a series of transactions managed through voice, notes and casual calls, and the ambient assumption that I would come through. The fourth page was what came next. I told him I was prepared to negotiate a formal repayment schedule for the existing amount. Not all of it immediately. I was not cruel, and I was not delusional about what was realistic, but something documented, something agreed upon, something that acknowledged the reality of what had been given and received. I told him I would not be sending money for Connor's party. I told him that this was not the end of our relationship, and that I loved him in the specific way you love a brother, completely and frustratedly and without being able to stop. And I told him that I was done being the person the voice notes went to at midnight. I mailed it on a Wednesday. He received it on Friday. I knew he had received it because Linda called my mother on Friday afternoon. My mother called me at 4:15. Linda called, she said. I expected that, I said. She's very upset. I understand. She said Derek is devastated. I thought about that word, devastated. I thought about the spreadsheet, about the 11 years, about the voice note at 11:47. Mom, what did you tell her? A pause. I told her Nathan loves his brother and that I thought they needed to talk. That's good. She said Connor is going to be humiliated if there's no party. Connor is 22 years old and he finished his degree. He deserves to be celebrated. The question is who pays for the celebration. My mother was quiet. Is it really $43,000? She asked. Yes, I said. He doesn't know that number. He does now. Derek called me on Saturday morning at 9. He had read the letter. I knew immediately that he had read all of it. Not just the first page, not just the parts about money, because the voice that came through the phone was different from the voice on Tuesday night. Tuesday night was a man who expected a confirmation. Saturday morning was a man who had been shown something and was trying to decide what to do with it. He did not open with an argument. He said, I didn't know you were keeping track. I know, I said. I thought those were just things family did for each other. They were, I said, for 11 years. And I did them because I love you. But at some point, things family does for each other start to have a cost that needs to be acknowledged. He was quiet. $43,000, he said. Yes. That's, Nathan, I didn't realize. I know, that's why I'm telling you. A long pause. I heard him breathing through his nose again, but it was different this time. Not the calculating breath. The overwhelmed breath. What do you want me to do? He asked. I want to have a real conversation, I said. Not about the money specifically at first. About us. About the way we've been doing this. I think if we can get that right, the money part is easier. And Connor's party is not something I can fund. But I'll be there. I'll bring a gift. I'll celebrate him the way an uncle should. What I won't do is write a check for a venue deposit, because a voice note arrived at midnight. Derek let out a breath. Not angry. Something more like deflation. The specific release of a man who has been holding a position. That turned out to be indefensible, and has finally let it go. Linda is furious, he said. I know. She says you're being cold. Tell Linda that cold would have been forwarding the spreadsheet to your mother instead of writing you a 4-page letter. A pause. Then something unexpected. He laughed. Not much in a short, real sound. But real. Yeah, he said. Okay, fair. We talked for 40 minutes. Not about money, mostly. About our father, which we had not talked about in years. About the way his death had changed things between us. About the things I had stepped into after he was gone. About the ways Derek had never quite stabilized after losing him. Some things you don't understand until you say them out loud. Some things you don't understand until someone puts them in a letter and forces you to read them at 9 in the morning, while the coffee is still hot. We did not resolve everything on that call. We agreed to meet the following week, in person, at a restaurant we had not been to together in years, to have the real conversation about what came next. Linda was not warm at the restaurant. I had not expected her to be. Linda's relationship with money and family obligation is a separate topic that I will not go into fully here, except to say that the voice note had been her idea as much as Derek's, which I know because Derek told me, and because it was consistent with patterns I'd been watching for 11 years. She sat across from me at dinner, with the careful posture of a woman who was there under protest and wanted that registered. I registered it. I was polite. I was direct. I was not unkind. When she said, "Dom, I hope you understand that what you're doing has consequences for Connor," I said that I hope the lesson Connor took from the situation was that a 22-year-old man should not need his uncle to fund his graduation party, and that understanding that early was a gift rather than a punishment. She did not respond to that. Derek changed the subject. We ate dinner. We talked about other things. The evening was not warm, but it was honest, which was a different category than we had been in for a long time. The repayment conversation happened over the following month, not with Linda present. She did not want to be there for that one, which I understood. Just Derek and me at my kitchen table, with the spreadsheet between us. He looked at it for a long time. "I really didn't know," he said again. "I know you didn't," I said. "That's the problem I'm trying to fix." We arrived at a number. Not the full amount. Not immediately. But a monthly payment that was realistic given Derek's actual income and obligations. We documented it. We both signed a copy. He has made every payment since. It is not going to be whole for a long time. I have accepted that. What I have not accepted is the alternative. Another 11 years of voice notes and spreadsheets, and carrying something invisible. Connor's graduation party happened at a park pavilion. Derek and Linda organized it themselves, with their own funds, which required planning and some sacrifice, but produced a real celebration. Connor grilled with his father. His friends came. There were photographs and cake, and the specific noise of a family celebrating someone they love. I was there for all of it. I brought a gift, a good one, chosen with care, because I love my nephew and that has never been in question. Connor hugged me at the end of the night and said, "Thanks for coming, Uncle Nathan." I told him I would not have missed it. He did not know about the spreadsheet. He will not know for a long time, if ever. What he knows is that his uncle showed up, which is, in the end, what matters. My mother called me the morning after the party. "How was it?" she asked. "Good," I said. "Really good, actually." "Derek seemed better," she said. "Different." "He did," I agreed. "Whatever you said in that letter." "We said it together," I said. "I just started the conversation." She was quiet. "I should have started it a long time ago," she said. "I should have been the one." "Maybe," I said. "But you taught me what I needed to teach myself. And some lessons take the right moment." She said she loved me. I told her I loved her too. Here's what 11 years and a spreadsheet and a 4-page letter and one conversation at a kitchen table taught me. The person in the family who carries the most is rarely the one who makes the most noise. They are the one who shows up quietly, who absorbs the gaps, who converts the emergencies into solutions without anyone having to ask. And they become invisible in their own importance because the structure works, and so no, one has to look at the load. Look at the load. Name what you are carrying. Not to punish anyone, not to balance the accounts dramatically, but because the relationship you are protecting by staying silent is not the real relationship. It is the comfortable version that only exists because one person is carrying it. The real relationship is what survives when you put the weight down and let the other person see it. Some relationships survive that. Some don't. The ones that do are the ones worth keeping. My brother sent me a voice note at midnight, asking for $8,500. I made one call, and then I wrote a 4-page letter, and we sat at a kitchen table with a spreadsheet between us. And for the first time in 11 years, we had an honest conversation about what we actually owed each other. That turned out to be worth considerably more than $43,000. Drop a comment below. Are you the one in your family who carries the invisible weight? Tell me. Disclaimer. This is a fictional story created for entertainment purposes only. Names, characters, and events are purely imaginary.